if you are someone who likes organization, that's what bookkeeping is. You're just organizing your money. You're just putting it into a category and running reports and really growing your business financially is going to be so much easier for you. You can focus on attracting the ideal client and delivering services rather than living in fear of your money scarcity because you have a system that you follow that you're in relationship with.
Welcome to Marketing and Mindset for Wellness Coaches, the podcast for health coaches and wellness entrepreneurs just like you who are building a business, making the world a healthier place, and designing a first-class life. I'm your host, Kim Foster, MD and certified business coach, and I'm on a mission to help you up-level your strategy and raise your mindset so you can truly thrive and grow your business. Let's get started. All right, friend, are you ready for an episode about money? Money is one of my favorite topics, and if you are a business owner, it should be one of yours too. I have a guest with me today who is such a great resource for all things money, especially for coaches, because she is a bookkeeper and a certified life and money coach who works with business owners who are looking for greater confidence when it comes to attracting and building wealth in their businesses and lives. Aimee LaLiberte is the owner of My Virtual CFO, and she's a trusted profitability advisor to 6- and 7-figure business owners who are tired of being behind in their books and are ready to uncover blind spots and course correct and ultimately get more profitable. After working in nonprofit and finance for over 16 years and helping more than 75 business owners since starting her own business, Aimee knows how important it is to have steadfast trust in the person who is looking after your books. So in our conversation, we talk about a lot more than just numbers. We talk about what it means to have a relationship with money, and Aimee also talks about a system for managing your money as an entrepreneur, the Profit First system, which is just such an excellent way of getting your finances in order. Before we get to that interview, I just want to mention that we are now enrolling for the Winter 2022 class of my coach certification program inside the Wellness Coach Academy. If you are done with working hard to build somebody else's dream and you are ready to say yes to freedom, to waking up every day knowing that you are making a difference in the lives of others, then I would love for you to check out the Wellness Coach Academy because it will help you achieve exactly that. I will put the link inside the show notes and you can head over there to learn everything you need to know. All right, that said, let's get to my conversation with Aimee. All right, today I am very excited to be chatting with Aimee LaLiberte. Welcome to the show, Aimee. I cannot wait to dive into all things money with you.
Thanks, Kim. It's nice to be here.
Great. Yeah. So, I'm really looking forward to learning more about, your approach to money and bookkeeping and all the things finance, because of course this is so incredibly important for entrepreneurs. But before we get into all that juicy stuff, I would just love for you to introduce yourself and give our listeners some background about who you are and who you help, and also, what was the journey that brought you to the work that you're doing right now?
Sure. Okay, so my name is Aimee LaLiberte, and I have a business that's called My Virtual CFO, and it has been around for about 5 years. And before that, I spent a couple decades working with largely colleges and universities, building out campaigns for their fundraising arm of their schools. And what I would do is not only do frontline fundraising, but I would also be the person building out the strategy behind the scenes and working with the finance office at the college to ensure that if we did receive any sort of large gift, we would understand the appropriate accounting and all of the different things that had to come with that. Now, the way that I ended up in that career, I feel like was completely by accident. And it goes back to my start of my college career. And when I was 18, my parents fell into some financial hardship. And as a result of that, I was held responsible for paying for my own college education.
Mm.
Now, up until that point, I had had a fascination with money, largely from the standpoint of like how like people made money, how it was transacted. But in terms of like having that deep relationship with money and really being intentional with how I chose to spend my money, that was really where my like journey started. And so I, at 18, knew that I needed to pay for my college education and I needed to create a relationship with money so that I could stay in school and so that I would understand all of the different things that I was confronted with like promissory notes and all of that, and the student financing, student debt financing, and everything. So I worked 3 jobs, and one of my jobs was I was like one of these, the telefundraising callers at my alma mater. And so I just was fascinated with how philanthropy worked and how, like, it all, like, and just how colleges and universities created that. And so that led into this career that went on for 2 decades. And then at the end of it, I realized that I could help colleges and universities raise 50 million, $100 million. But what I really felt called to do was to take all of this information that I created and learned and absorbed and developed in terms of a signature system and bring it to small businesses in order so that they could have a relationship with money and primarily with their business financials. So that's when I started my business. And so I've been working with 6 and 7 figure business owners for the last 5 years. And we not only do like the bookkeeping, and that's the really foundational and like really important foundational work that we do, but we also talk about forecasting. We do the CFO stuff. So we look to the future of like what sort of financial goals do we want to set and how do we create strategy around that, as well as the mindset that comes inevitably with having a business. When you start to grow and scale your business, there's just so much that goes into your mindset. And it's often the thing that is overlooked in terms of like creating any financial goal. So we work that into the entire process as well.
That's awesome. I love that. So much experience, like looking at money from all those different angles, like from your own personal experience and then from various professional roles. So that's cool. Okay. There's a lot that we can unpack in that for sure. I want to start with, you mentioned the phrase relationship with money, like you were creating a new relationship with money. And I would love to talk about that a little bit more. Like, this is a super important thing for me, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this concept of like building and creating a relationship with money. How does somebody go about doing that?
I think from the time that we're young, if you're someone who lives where like you earn money by doing chores or anything like that's a relationship with money, right?
Mm.
But when it comes up to when you're having a relationship with money, is that how do you relate to money? Do you avoid money? Do you have limiting thoughts around the fact that if you were bad at math, that means that you're bad at money? Are you someone who when they are they're feeling negative emotion, do you overspend and do you find like retail as a way to buffer to avoid your emotions? And that's really where the relationship with money really stems from, is how do you relate with money, and really just unpacking that. And so much of that relationship is really crafted and created while we're children, and particularly when we are in our like teens and early 20s, we're really developing this stronger relationship with money. And oftentimes, at least in my upbringing, we never really talked about money in terms of this holistic perspective. It was, my parents were blue collar workers, and it was you work really hard for your money, and a lot of like that, like you work hard, you earn money, and not necessarily looking at it from the standpoint, okay, you've made money now, like what are the things that you need, what are the things that you want? And that is defined, that's a personal definition. There's not this like global definition, I don't think.
Mhm.
And really, how does all of that develop? Like, how do you feel about debt? And really just creating an awareness as well as like a deep understanding with like how do you want to relate with money, with also the understanding that relationships change, relationships evolve. So you might be somebody who loves to have debt now because you're going to you're starting a business, and so you're building up things and you're doing marketing and you're doing all the things. But then maybe there's a time period where you've realized, I feel like I'm good. I've created this revenue and now I want to focus on paying debt down because I want to eliminate debt. But understanding and constantly being in relationship and checking in with yourself and how you want to relate to money is really what that frame of having a relationship with money means to me.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so true. Like it all starts with awareness. I think you mentioned that because so much, I mean, whether you're aware of it or not, it's all happening under the surface and influencing the way that you're, making your money decisions and taking action. So it sounds like from your perspective too, like really checking in, being really aware and bringing all of those unconscious stories and beliefs up to the surface is really the first place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things, if someone who identifies as having money scarcity, like scarcity money thoughts, I really ask them and encourage them to talk about like what's their money story to really start to see where like the themes and thoughts are coming in. And what that allows them to do is to, again, create their awareness because sometimes that is not even an intentional thought. It's just a thought that they have had for quite some time. And sometimes there's just situations that happen in your life where you don't see it playing out as an adult because it might be something that happened 20 years ago, but it's still like holding on. There's like a deep rooted belief in there. And, some people call it money blocks. Some people call it money blocks. Oh my God, I just lost my train of thought. But regardless of which, but they call it that. But what it really boils down to is it could just very well be this limiting belief that you have that you need to just examine and say, does this serve me? Do I choose to believe this? Or it's just, it could very well just be like the 16-year-old version of yourself just needing to be comforted in that moment because it feels this scarcity and fear because it's like reliving that particular moment, but it doesn't mean that that's who you are now. And some of this I'm talking about from experience. As I said, with, when me figuring out how to pay for my college education, I made lots of mistakes. I was someone who took on credit card debt and not good credit card debt where I was like paying my college education for it. I was really upset that I was having to pay for my college education. So I'd go to the mall.
Mm. Right.
and and so like things like that. But I knew that I was doing that now that I know that I was doing that. But one of the things that I do now is like I don't carry credit card debt. It's not because I think credit card debt is bad or good. It's just this conscious choice that I make like today as that version of myself today. And I don't judge that version of myself from 18 to 20. They were learning. And how amazing is it that they were able to learn, they were able to pay the credit card debt down and off, and now they are like this full version of themselves in their 40s who lives a different way. So I feel like there's so much learning opportunity, and not invitations to give yourself like a shame party for like
Mm.
making poor decisions, but more of an invitation of like, what did I learn from that and how can I use that lesson to be a better financial person, a better person in relationship with my money.
Yeah, I think that's so important because it's so easy when we start to become aware of our own money stories, which we all have, to really like judge ourselves harshly and, like you said, have like a shame party over the beliefs that we had. But it's not about that. Of course, it's like with detachment from and not non judgment, but really more examining it from a position of curiosity is what I usually say. But I mean, so I know that you work with, entrepreneurs now. And so what are some common money stories or limiting beliefs around money that you see in your clients that can really, really hold them back from achieving the things that they want to achieve?
Well, often when I'm working with business owners, they have created a business that they feel is outside of themselves, as in, like, it was like, I don't know how this happened. It just happened. There's some of that goes on, but there's also some of the, I want to take this to the next level. And I don't know the first thing to do with that. And I don't understand my financials. And, so there's lots of like, I don't know, and limiting beliefs around their skill set and their aptitude to, like, where they are now, but then even like their aptitude to become someone who has a relationship with their financials. And so what I often find that we do is there's usually common themes of questions that are coming up. So for instance, and again, I work with 6 and 7 figure business owners. So it doesn't really matter how many zeros are in the numbers. Like,
Right.
these are very similar. So there's questions like, I know that I'm making a lot of money, but I don't see that in my bank account. So something like that tells me, okay, they need to learn how to read their financial statements, because they are only looking at this one. They're not looking at this one. And so, like, the income statement versus the balance sheet. So I know that there's some financial literacy to be had. There can also be like, I'm a single mother and I want to buy a house. And I don't feel that that's possible for me because no bank will ever want to give me financing. And so then it's like, okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to craft a plan and we're going to make that possible. We're going to hold the belief that it's possible. And, we'll work on the math part of it. You look and see where the houses are. Like, what are the types of houses that we can align for you in order to do that? So it's really just a matter of, like, just being radically honest with yourself about what it is that you're looking to create with money, and then just asking for help and, like, really a roadmap on how to create that. And that's different for every single business owner, but the map is typically the same in terms of, like, having the relationship with the money, so that in the event that you are someone who's making, let's say, just for simple math, you're making $10,000 a month in recurring revenue, and you know that you want to buy a house, so you need to increase your owner's pay in order to do that. We can turn around and just start to evaluate and look at the expenses. Are these expenses serving you and what your greater purpose is, both in your business and in your life? And do we want to continue down that path? Are there other ways for us to either create more revenue or cut expenses in order to get you there? And it may take us 2 years to create that result, but if we're really all in on the journey to get there, then it's as good as done. And really just giving them the tools to believe in the journey, because I have found that my clients can get to any destination if they're just willing to go on the journey and continue to take the steps.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I that's a great example, and it's so true. Like, anything is possible as long as you actually, first of all, believe that it's possible. Because, like that example that you gave, like the single mom, if she just deep down really believes that it's not possible for her to own a home, then she's not going to look for solutions. She's not going to, reach out to help for help and all of the steps that would get her that way. So I love that that's where it starts, because of course that is where it starts. But I kind of want to just change, just tack for a second, and because I know that one of the things that you help people with and that you specialize in is profit first. And I feel like this is like a methodology that if you've got the mindset and then you need an actual methodology to get your finances in order, I'd love to hear a little bit more, because I'm personally quite intrigued by this concept of profit first. Like, I'd love for you to tell our listeners, like, why this is a framework that maybe they would want to learn more about or consider.
To start, Profit First is a book written by Mike Michalowicz, and it is a cash flow management system that you put on top of your accounting system. And what I mean by that is, in like a basic implementation, you're going to the bank and creating a few accounts. And so the way that it works is that you've got 5 accounts in a basic implementation. You've got your income account, so all your money comes in there. And then twice a month, we recommend that you make allocations to the other 4 accounts, which are profit, which are taxes, which are owner's pay, and operating expense. And by taking very specific percentage allocations and putting them into those different 4 accounts, there's a couple of things that will happen. Number one, you will pay yourself because you have an owner's pay account. So that money is yours as the owner to take, as your take home pay. You never have to worry about taxes because you have a tax savings account. And then you're also permanently profitable because you are taking your profit first. And then whatever's left is what you use for your operating expenses. And so it's a very intentional, very simple process to do cash flow management. But the hard part is actually sticking to it, because temptation will inevitably make a visit, and you will want to say, "Oh, I don't have enough money to make this purchase that I want." And so the temptation to go into the tax account and to take that money in order to pay for the operating expense, those things naturally happen. We're humans. And when we want that, delayed gratification is not something that we do well. We want instant
Yes.
gratification. But the part of it is the constraint and the intentionality behind Profit First is why it works. And so I have been helping businesses since the beginning of my business. I use it in my business too. And we have paid off decades of debt. We
Hmm.
have allocated and course corrected the business so that they are much more efficient, that they're scaling now because the stress of the burden of, like, I don't know what's going on with my finances is no longer an issue because we have a system in place and we have a repeatable system that we can use in order to help drive profitability and drive revenue and financial decisions that are aligned with what the overall goals are for the business owner. So it's an amazing, easy way to do cash flow management.
Yeah, I love that. What I love about that is that it does sound, very intentional, like you said. I mean, it's kind of like it's flipping from what I understand, it's reversing the way that traditional accounting is. Like with traditional accounting, you look at your revenue minus your expenses and whatever you've got left over is
Mhm.
what you've got left over, right? But this
Mhm.
is like flipping that on its head and taking out deciding on taking out the leftover part, like the profit part first, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, you're deciding ahead of time what your profit is going to be. And the thing that's so great about it is, again, if you get the book, and if you want, Kim, I can probably give you a link so that if any of your listeners want to download a couple of the first few chapters, I can send that so that
That'd
they
be
can
awesome.
have that. But essentially, what you would be able to do is say, okay, if my business is $150,000 in annual revenue, here is a recommended allocations that a company at the same exact size would have for maximum profitability. But then we also have tables that if you are a $5 million business, there's a different set of tables. So they're all like, this has all been curated and designed intentionally using lots of data in order to make sure that the percentages are aligned with your revenue number. And it works. It really, like, I've seen it time and time again. It works. It really helps create like a deeper relationship with money. And it also, if you are a business owner who is just starting to date your money, if you will, in terms of, like, you're curious, like, you're no longer avoiding your checking account, like
Right.
your bank account, like you're going to go in and look. If you've got Profit First set up, you can not just look at one bank account and say, I have no idea what that means. Like, I don't know, like, all right, like I have that much money, good to know. But if you have the profit first allocations, you're going to see, your tax account. If you have a thought, I'm never going to have enough money to pay for my taxes, you have an account that you can train your brain to be like, no, remember, like we're saving money for taxes. It's totally fine. We have the money to pay for that. If you're somebody who wants to pay themselves more, but never can figure out a way. Like this is designed to help make sure that you are giving yourself a consistent compensation while you run your business.
I love that. That's so great. So that's what you would suggest for people, like just in terms of getting started, is to start with the book.
Yeah, absolutely. Start with the book. And then if questions come up, I mean, obviously you're welcome to, I'm sure that you'll share my website. You can send me
Hmm.
a contact form. Is there any questions that come up? Then I'm happy to like field any questions for you. But there's a lot of really helpful information in there. And ultimately, it's really about just becoming familiar with the content and then really going from there and starting to do the implementation. That's what tends to work best. And it is accessible, it's easy. The biggest barrier to entry, I will tell you from all of my clients, it's opening up the bank accounts. I
Mm.
don't know why, but there are sometimes like my clients are like, oh, I don't want to have to go, bring, and I'm like, go to your favorite coffee shop, buy yourself a coffee, beverage, whatever you want to do, and then just go to the bank. It will be fine.
Mhm.
And there may even be, there's a lot more banks that are doing things online that you can probably even just do this from the comfort of your home. So don't let the opening of the accounts derail you from being able to do this because it is a transformational, very easy system to implement.
Yeah, I love that. And, speaking of implementation, I know that a lot of people, in my community, they're, on board with wanting to get their finances in order, but feel kind of like overwhelmed with all the steps, perhaps, or where to start, and or just it's often bookkeeping can be kind of a mess and all of that for people. So, how do you know when it's time to get some help with this, like to actually outsource your business financials?
Yeah, I mean, so if you are just starting out, it is really critical that you have a bookkeeping system established, and that can be done where when you're just starting out, you can learn how to do your bookkeeping and then have someone file your taxes for you, but you can really take ownership of that. And I actually recommend it when you're building to your first six figures, because you begin to really understand the relationship with money, like how expenses are categorized, how income comes in, and you're the person who's really in the driver's seat of that entire system. And so hiring somebody to create a bookkeeping system and train you on it is a great investment to make when you're just starting out, and then you just continue to maintain it. And if you're working with someone who's able to really leverage the technology and the tools, you can easily get your bookkeeping done in 15 minutes when you're just starting out per week. It is really not a heavy lift to do. But then what you can also do is create like a money hour every week, and you can have a CFO time where you go in, you do your bookkeeping, you print out your financials, and you ask yourself some very basic questions on how you would, I have this much money that I collected this week. Do I understand? Like, was this what I wanted it to be? Was it not? Do I understand why? And you're just teasing out the questions and the answers yourself, because you're flexing that muscle, that financial muscle, so that when you do get to a point when you have realized, okay, I've scaled this business, my time would be best spent doing more generating revenue activities or working on the business instead of in the business, then you can outsource. And I typically see that at anywhere, like usually over $100,000 in consistent revenues when I see people start to really contemplate whether or not this is something they want to be doing. And then you just go from there. But in the meantime, getting the bookkeeping system in order, maintaining it, and then running the financial reports, you will become a more confident CEO of your business and entrepreneur, because you're going to know what's happening in your business. financially.
Yeah, that's I love that. It's so important, like even when you are, and this kind of goes for all sorts of things with outsourcing, that before you outsource, I think it's important to have be empowered and have an understanding of what it's all about before you actually hand it over to somebody else. Because it's kind of dangerous territory to just hand it over because you don't want to learn or because you feel overwhelmed and you just kind of want to stick your head in the sand.
Mhm.
But I love that suggestion of like getting some help, even right at the beginning, for somebody to set up a system for you and train you, show you how to use it, and then you run with it for a while until you hit a point where you're outsourcing not because you don't understand it, but you're outsourcing because you're making a strategic decision about your use of time.
Absolutely. And I just want to highlight the thing that you said, which I often I do see sometimes is when it's like I'm bad at money, therefore I'm going to abdicate my responsibility to
Mm,
maintain it. And that is an opportunity. If you have any sort of thought that's in the realm of that, that is your invitation to really dig into that thought. Because if you are someone who likes organization, like that's what bookkeeping is. You're just organizing your money. You're
mm,
just putting it into like a category and just making sure that it's consistently in the same category and that you're maintaining the system. And if you're able to do that, then, running reports and really growing your business financially is going to be so much easier for you because the thought of I'm terrible at money will not be the like front runner of all the thoughts that you have. You can then focus on, attracting the ideal client and delivering services rather than living in fear of like your money scarcity because it's not a problem. Like you have a system that you follow that you're in relationship with.
yeah, exactly. That's perfect. And so if somebody is looking for, help, though, like I know that I do have many people in my community who are kind of thinking, do I need to get a CFO? But like, what is a CFO exactly? And why would somebody want to have one in their business? Like if they feel like they're at that stage?
Yeah. So the way that I have built out my practice is I started out with the bookkeeping, and then I added on the CFO services because I was just naturally doing that with my clients. And so I just thought, okay, if I'm doing it, then that's what I'm going to call it. But that is future forecasting. So if you're someone who knows that you are growing your business and that you're scaling it, and you want someone who is just sitting in the seat that is just looking at your business from a financial lens and helping you see any sort of blind spots that you may not see because you're not sitting from that same vantage point. That's what a CFO can do for you.
Mm,
They're also someone who can, when you file your taxes, if you do have a CPA, or whoever does your tax work, I know that you're in Canada, Kim, that you're able to then turn around and like they can help facilitate any sort of additional documentation. They can help answer any questions and as it regards to like decisions in terms of why did you allocate something like this. So they can really help facilitate and serve as like your financial like chief financial officer.
mm,
The thing is that when you are just starting out or when you're growing to a point where you're wondering whether or not you need it, you may not need a full CFO. You may need a fractional CFO, and that's what I am for my clients. I serve in a fractional capacity. My company does their bookkeeping for them. We do the profit first management, and we also do payroll, and then we also do CFO work. So it's not the only thing we do for my clients. It's just part of like the greater package. But then if you're also someone who's like, I just want to ask someone questions about my finances, but I
mm,
don't want a long-term relationship, um, looking for someone who you may just be able to book a call with, like maybe it's a quarterly basis, like, hey, are you seeing anything? Is there anything that comes up that you might want to? Those are opportunities for you to really talk to someone who could provide you with some financial insight that you may not have seen on your books because you're the person like looking at the books, living in the books. But then also, there's programs. I have a program that I'm launching called the Finance Edit that does this type of thing. And like that can again be in a group capacity program where where you're given the support to ask these questions, but it's not somebody that is like with you the whole time. You are just going and getting the support on an as needed basis.
That's a great idea too. Yeah, awesome. Okay. Well, we're just about out of time, Amy. This has
Mhm.
been so awesome. I could talk to you about money all day long because it's one of my favorite subjects. And I definitely want to hear all your details in terms of where listeners can go to connect with you. But before we do that, just any final words of wisdom, like one or two final or key takeaways to give to our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. I invite you to create a relationship with your financials and your business financials. Any goal that you wish to set is possible and available to you. And the first step is just deciding that you are going to have that relationship with your financials. After that, everything else will unfold exactly the way that it is intended to. But just making the conscious decision to have that relationship is so critical.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that is the perfect note to end on. Like I said, though, before we go, just tell us where can people go to learn more about you and your work and connect with you?
Absolutely. So if you go to my website, My Virtual CFO, as in Chief Financial Officer, .co, you will be able to see what I have going on in my part of the internet, as well as if any of the things that I talked about and referenced you're interested in, you can certainly sign up and get on the wait list for anything that I have uncovering. And then also on Instagram at My Virtual CFO.
Perfect. That's awesome. I'll put those links in the show notes too. All right, this has been such a pleasure, Amy. It's been so awesome talking to you.
Yes, likewise. Thanks for having me.
All right, that is a wrap for today. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I would love to know your thoughts. I would love to know what kind of relationship you have with money. And I'd also be curious to know what your thoughts are about the profit first system and if it's something that you would like to try. Again, remember we are enrolling right now for the Wellness Coach Academy Winter 2022 class, but only for one more week. If you would like more details, then just go ahead and head to the link in the show notes or just head to wellnesscoachacademy.com. Have an amazing week, and I will talk to you again very soon. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Now, if you enjoyed this episode and you're excited to learn even more about how to pursue a career as a health and wellness coach, I would love to invite you to attend my free online class called How to Chart a Path to Your Dream Career as a Wellness Coach: The 3 Secrets for Stepping into a Meaningful New Career Without Wasting Time or Money. This class is especially for women who are interested in becoming wellness coaches and building a freedom-based business, but aren't sure how to get there and what to do first. Inside this workshop, I'll be teaching you the 3 biggest myths about health and wellness coaching that will hold you back and what the truth is instead. And I will also teach you the most important thing that you need to do to get transformative results for your clients, which will enable you to build a profitable business as a wellness coach and step into this incredible career. So if that sounds like something that you need to attend, then I invite you to grab a spot in this class. Head over to drkimfoster.com/become a coach, and that's where you can reserve your seat. All the info is on that page, everything you need to know, and you can just go ahead and choose the time that works for you. And then I will see you there.